Hello.
Hello. So we're carrying on with these tiny little mics.
Hello, Mudang.
Girl, every fucking day, bleep, bleep, bleep. Mudang this, mudang that,
Mudang,
mudang.
Mudang.
England.
England.
Get them out of our country. Let's go back to how great Britain was. Proper great. Get the muzzies out. Get the P words out of our country, stealing our jobs, taking everything away from us. Everything, including my teeth and all my brain cells, man. Get out, get out.
Coming in our country.
Stealing our jobs.
But anyway, let's go Benidorm.
Let's do it. Let's get a pasty and go back. I'm not coming for pasties actually.
I'm
We'll
not
go
coming
past
for
it.
Benidorm.
Let's go. Let's go
Right.
and explore the culture. Let's go and explore the culture in a different country. We'll go to a British pub because we're Britain.
Are you okay?
But yeah, but y'all want to go to Spain, Dubai? Ooh.
If we're gonna get demonetized, we probably might as well get proper demonetized.
Y'all want to go and live in all these other countries, but get out of our country. Girl, bye.
When did
Girl,
we become so
girl,
aggressive?
Also, what am I popping up for?
Yeah, I
Do you know
know.
what? It's actually funny because it's like, you can't talk sense into those kinds of people. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Do you know what? We don't need you today. This podcast is me and me only.
Just you
I'm
and your
feeling
rants.
I'm living. By the way, your shirt's gorge. I love it.
It's nice.
Yeah, it looks good on me. So yeah, be quiet for a moment because it's my moment. I'm joking. You look cute.
Thank you.
I like you in red. That sounded very controlling. But yeah, coming in our country, stealing our jobs, and da 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 da. I'm like, girl, shut. Can we swear? Yeah, we can.
I think you can.
Girl, shut up, kutti.
Yeah.
Kuttiya. Chup karo. Do you know what I mean? Chup kar kutti. Like, do you know what I mean though? Chup kar kutti. Kutti. Chup kar kutti.
I don't think there's any. Can't use any of this footage.
Why?
I don't know what's going on.
Me neither.
He's having an inner monologue.
Yeah, I am. But it's like coming in our country, stealing our jobs, and da 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 da. It's like, oh,
You know, somebody said this about America. I think she lived in Texas by the border, where they're pouring in and stuff. And she said she was like, they were like, "Oh, so are you against immigration? What's happening?" And she said, "No, I'm not against it." She was like, "We need to find a way to regulate it and help it and legitimize it, kind of thing."
mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Why do you think that? Why is that?" And she went, "I tell you something. We have fields of strawberries here, and when we had a shortage of labor, none of the white people wanted to go strawberry picking." And she goes, "It was all the migrants." And he's like, "You're going to start sending them back. Watch this country collapse." And I was like, how profound.
Period.
How profound. But that's exactly what happens. Is like, even in the UK at one point, I think we had 900,000 jobs available, and a third of the country was not working or was sick. So it's like, and I remember Rishi Sunak saying, "Oh, legal migration is too high." So I'm like, okay, so never mind illegal, legal migration is too high. There's a load of jobs that can't be filled, which obviously will impact productivity in the economy. And then we have a third of the country who is incapacitated in some shape or form to do these jobs. So who's going to take these 900,000 jobs because they need to be filled?
They're stealing our jobs.
It's going to be foreigners. Like, I don't think people realize that there are people out there who will not do a job because they just do not want to do that job.
Oh, I've known of people
No.
that are capable of working, but will do anything and everything to not
And
do a job.
yeah, well, and of course they are. Yeah.
Oh no, don't you do Miss America here?
No. I think that there are people who genuinely cannot work.
Oh
That's
yeah, of
that's one thing.
course.
We're not talking about them.
No, we're not talking
What I'm
about them.
saying is, like, there are jobs that can be filled, but people don't do them because that job just does not suit them. That job simply does not suit them, so they refuse to do it. So then in comes a migrant who is willing to do it at a fair wage, or what they consider as a fair wage, and they're just willing to do the work.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
you know what I mean?
And then you're
But then
mad.
they become the problem.
Yeah, but
So
the
that
problem is a lot of people can't be introspective either, and they
Mm.
can't actually look to themselves
Mm.
and decide what they need to do to change in their life to get
Mm.
better. It's very, very easy to blame everyone else
Mm.
under the sun for your circumstance and become a victim of your circumstance and
Mm.
victim mentality. But why don't you sit and think, what am I doing day to day first before you even look elsewhere to ensure that I'm in the best position in my life, or I'm better in myself or better in my life? What decisions am I making day to day? You
Mm.
know? And that is so important. Introspection is so, so important. But people refuse to do it because as soon as you start being introspective, you kind of have to look at yourself, break down your ego, and be like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. I'll give you an
oh,
example. Like my late grandfather, he came to the UK to work in furnaces. So clearly there was a shortage of labor. I think it was like post-war, post-World War. There was obviously a shortage of labor. So India, Pakistan partitioned, the British Empire fell, and the World War II happened, so it was a prime time for migrants to come to the UK in order to fill the labor gap. That's essentially what happened. It wasn't reparations. We weren't welcome to make a new world for ourselves or whatever. It was to do a job. And that is what my grandfather did. And clearly, that's because they couldn't find people from nearby to do it. And bearing in mind, he settled in an industrial town. So, people would have done laborious jobs there. Um, did he come and steal somebody's job? I highly doubt it. I highly, highly doubt it. The people have this bizarre historic amnesia, and now what's happening is some of these underdeveloped countries are becoming developed. And I remember in 2004, the UK imported, I call it import, they imported 1,000 doctors from Pakistan alone. That is to fill a labor gap. Do you know what I mean? So I'm
yeah,
like,
it just
so
doesn't
I'm like,
happen
so what? So
randomly.
what I'm like, so I'm like, what are we doing here? Science is no longer a core subject, which obviously means people are going to be less inclined towards doing the sciences. What do you need to get a medicine degree? You need sciences. People can't afford high tuition fees. However, people are willing to pay 3 times as much in terms of tuition fees coming from a foreign country because they know that there's a higher return on it for them. Universities are higher more inclined to take on foreign students because they make more money from them. So all of a sudden, it's this problem that's been created, but the migrant is to blame.
But then when you look,
No, I don't think so.
but people need to realize this problem that they perceive as a problem, basically people of color,
Hmm,
um, go watch out for the future because even if you look at just statistics in education right now in the UK, East Asian people have always been ahead, right?
they've always excelled. Yeah,
Indians excel, but now Pakistanis have excelled past white British people.
yeah,
You know, so it's really really interesting how because education's become so important and pushed
yeah.
within
Well, we're saving children, aren't we?
brown
We're
brown
saving children.
communities as well.
Hmm,
This is your way out of anything and everything.
yes.
So what happens when um it's not like a way out situation? What happens when there's an even playing field?
Hmm,
What happens when equality and equity and everything comes together as one in the
hmm,
future? It's really really interesting. You can look at a third of children in like primary schools are mixed heritage
hmm.
now. That will eventually be 40%, 50%. It will continue to go. So my question is like, will we continue to forever have these people that are like, get out of our country,
Hmm.
and will their voices become smaller? Will they be louder? Will there be less of them? Or will it just phase out eventually?
See, I think it will. I think the opposite will happen, and it is happening. So, with the likes of far right parties gaining political momentum,
Mm,
it shows that because ultimately what happens is the frustrations of the nation grow. So if I'm giving you the example of medical students and doctors coming from abroad, that means that there's less happening for the UK lot. They might not want to become a doctor, they might not want to pursue education in the same way, but because of their choices or whatever, they're going to be affected more and more and more and more and more.
mm,
It's like the likes of Brexit. How can you do Brexit? There's strength in unity, and the British Empire's way of conquering was to divide and rule. You ended up dividing yourself. It is the dumbest thing that happened. Do you know what I mean? And
mm.
you cannot. Nobody can deny the negative economic impacts it's had on Britain. You can't deny that. It's very apparent. The European Union funds used to fund parks, social elements, and recreational spaces, that's all dwindling. You only need to take a drive through the UK to see just how different it looks from 10 years ago. It looks very, very different,
Very,
I'm
very
sorry to
different.
say. And then obviously, the European war, the war in the Middle East, COVID, it's had compounding effects. And so then you instantly start looking for a scapegoat, and the scapegoat becomes,
Always.
yeah, it becomes the foreigners coming in.
It's
And in
because
actual
it's because
fact,
history has a funny way of repeating
yeah,
itself.
and the truth is that is not what's impacting the country necessarily in a negative way, or solely the cause. It's like, recently there's been fires stoked on grooming gangs,
Mm.
and we're talking about how it's uh, Pakistanis coming into this country and then grooming white people and white children. Now, it's a very serious
Hmm.
allegation, and I think one of the reasons why it hasn't been entertained in quite the same way. And I remember even Rishi Sunak tried to do a campaign, and it was quickly shut down, I believe, because it was inaccurate. Per capita, the number of people who are grooming and abusing children per capita, it's white people. What they've realized is that it's not an overwhelming majority of South Asians who are doing it. It's actually it's disproportionately represented in the media, which gives a perception that it's South Asians. It's statistically it's actually
Yeah.
white people. However,
Mm.
it's something that happens across the spectrum.
Right. Let me just interject here, and this is a problem when we bring in like it is this race, it is this, it is that. We make it into a race war
Yeah,
as opposed to child abuse,
yeah,
child grooming.
mm,
How about we focus on the fact that these children, these young people, they need saving,
mm,
they need help, and focus on the individuals that are doing it, not what color skin the individuals have, not what they look like, just the fact that these are rotted as hell,
mm.
evil, 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 evil human beings.
That need to be
They're
removed from
evil human beings,
society.
not you know Pakistani grooming gangs, not even white grooming gangs, none of that. We don't
No.
need any of that because my thing is the response to the Pakistani grooming gangs isn't to go the opposite way and say white grooming gangs.
Hmm.
My response is let's eradicate all of issues
Yeah.
around race
And
and
yeah.
let's focus on men grooming.
And the other thing is, to add to that is, um, let's not try and shift the focus to other people, like you
Right?
say, and to add to that, rather than shifting focus, you should also look to serve your own communities.
Mm,
You should look to serve your own communities because, um, coming from a South Asian background, being British Asian, how much crap goes on in South Asian
yes.
households that the elders would sooner dismiss
Oh,
and not deal with,
absolutely.
and minimize. When we talk about child abuse that occurs, or when we talk about, you know, when we've heard of South Asians going to prison for really serious crimes, and everybody's praying for them and trying to demonize the victim.
And they're okay back in their families.
Yeah.
They can go to
And it's
oh,
like, no, actually, you should take accountability for what's happened, and you should eradicate it from your society. You should um, uh, be in support of the law of the country that you live in. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? And if there's an
Mm,
issue with the law, then you challenge that legislatively. You don't try and take in a way it's like taking the law in your own hands, because I'll give you an example, and it's your story, not mine. But we, I remember you telling me about an instance where there was somebody who was abusing children in a teaching environment. It wasn't school, but it was like an after-school thing. And when one of the children reported it to the head teacher of their school, the South Asian community, decided to accuse the head teacher of being anti-Muslim and being Jewish and having something against South Asians. They made it a race and religious
yeah.
thing, whereas in actual fact,
The teacher was
he
safeguarding and protecting the
he
kid.
was safeguarding and protecting the child from abuse.
Yeah,
So we as our own communities have to take accountability for when stuff is wrong.
we do. You know, I want to talk about this a bit more after the break, actually.
Okay,
I
yeah,
really,
sure,
really want to get into it.
sure.
We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
We will be right back. And we are back. I was thinking, why have we become so serious with these topics? Is it because we need to talk? Because usually it's like new year, new beginnings, joy to the world, peace, love, and harmony. And we're kind of like, let's get involved. And that's very not like us,
No, it's not.
especially me. I'm usually team not involved.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe it's just a new. I don't know. We essentially talk about what comes naturally to us,
Mm,
and maybe it's a reflection of things we're experiencing in life. Maybe it's a
mm,
reflection of some new healing that we're going through, or
mm,
maybe it's we feel that we are at such a distance now.
mm.
We're more comfortable talking about these things. I think also like um, we're kind of stepping into and recognizing that we are serving a community as well, and
Yeah.
like,
Hey, do you know that's part of my meditative practice?
yeah,
I learned it from Oprah, and she said, she meditates and says, use me for a
yeah,
purpose greater than myself, and that really
mm,
resonated with me because it helps you break down your ego because it's like, yeah, I'm great, amazing, beautiful, whatever, but what can I do to help move the needle forward?
same.
And that's about serving a purpose that is greater than yourself. Um, and so I think that's probably one of the reasons why where we're like, yeah, we do have a platform, we do have a voice, and what do we want to use it for?
Absolutely, and I think it is important to serve a purpose greater than yourself. And if you're in a position where you can do so, why not?
Mm,
If you feel inclined to do so, and I like that because my thing is always about serving a purpose greater than myself. As long as I'm happy, I'm safe, I'm confident, I'm comfortable, and really, I want to inspire brown kids that are younger than me to go and live their life. Just go and
yeah.
live their truth. Just go and live. Just go and live. You got one shot at this. And I say
Mm,
this so much, but go and live. Go
mm,
and do your thing. Don't let anyone hold you back. Don't let family hold you back. Don't let the relative down the road hold you back. Don't let anyone hold you back. And speaking of family and relatives, I think you made a really important point when you were talking about the fact that as a South Asian community, we need to level up. Like you all need to level up with like how much you protect abusers, how
mm,
much cover up in abuse goes on. I can only speak from my own experience. Like I grew up, and I'm not going to name names of people and but large extended families and large extended community. Let's call it community, right?
mm,
I grew up in community where it was normal for like to hear about a man beating up their wife and the wife trying to leave and the family telling them stay with him.
mm.
It was normal for kids to get beat the crap out of by their parents and other people know and do nothing.
Yeah.
That was absolutely normal. It was normal for men to rape women and still be in their family.
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? That's what I grew up with. That was normal. It was normal for these people to go to prison for horrible things,
Violent crimes.
violent, violent crimes, and everyone's visiting them, praying for them back, and they're welcome to this community. Being gay, though,
That's where you
that's
draw the
it. That's
line.
where you draw the line.
Hey, do you know, I recently looked at a statistic, and a child being LGBT, I believe, it increases their likelihood of being abused.
It's like the adult wants to beat the gay out of the
Yeah,
kid. Just
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
you think you're gonna hit that kid and beat the gay out of the kid. I'm gonna tell you something, Miss Adult, Miss Dark and nasty and evil, evil adult. That kid is gonna thrive in the future. That kid's gonna grow out of that community. And you
Mm.
know what? I hope that kid just sticks two fingers at you and never looks back. And this is to any queer person listening. If you have, experienced child abuse, it's very easy to keep going back to the abuser. But mama, you go and turn over and you go and live your life.
So this is one. I know we're digressing, but this is an important point that I want to raise, and it kind of goes off from the last episode that we were doing, because we can scream and say, yes, it's child abuse, child abuse, child abuse. Some people will call it disciplining, and then they will say, well, why can't I discipline my child? So the thing is, when you physically abuse a child, you cause long term damage rather than rectifying it. And,
Mm,
I am a victim of that. I have suffered physical abuse as a
yeah.
child from the hands of my
And
parents.
what long term, if you don't mind talking about what long term damage did that cause you?
So it can cause neurological
Yeah.
damage. It can cause severe brain impairments. From things such as body image
Yeah.
issues. It can cause sexual promiscuity. It can cause food eating disorders. It even increases your likelihood of diabetes. I have suffered from all of those things. And it's only literally the other day that I had an epiphany, I had a breakthrough, and I realized, oh, yes, what I went through wasn't correct and right, but this is the reason why I have certain issues that I have to deal with as an adult. It's like you said in the previous episode, I have to wake up every single day and I have to be cognizant of the things that I've been through and know that I have to overcome them on a daily basis. You know, if you're a parent watching this and if you have physically abused your child, first of all, stop, obviously, but know what damage you're doing to your child. You think you are disciplining them and rectifying them. The facts say otherwise. It doesn't work and it actually does more damage. You are damaging your child. You need to stop harming your child. That is
Mm.
the reason why hitting your child does not work.
No, it doesn't.
It might stop them and make them afraid in the interim, but in the long term it causes irreparable damage, or it causes damage to an extent that they will be debilitated for life with it.
Yeah,
And we need to stop saying, oh, my mum would whoop my ass. No, it was physical
it's
abuse.
not a
It is
joke.
not acceptable. And if you want to have if you want to have a confrontation as an adult, you should be free to do so,
Mm.
you know, in order to heal yourself.
Yes, we need to stop joking about this idea
We
of
need to
we got
stop.
beats, we
No.
got thing, and that's the thing, you know. This is staying on topic, but it might feel like it's off. You know, sometimes I tune into like queer shows, say like a Drag Race, especially like a Drag Race UK,
Mm,
and I get to see people that we already know,
mm.
and you know, and they go on and they talk about their story. I love hearing someone's story, and more often enough, the story is I was bullied in school by people, but my parents loved me and they helped me out. I had the love from home. Work, great. Everything's so traumatic for me. I'm like, great, but can I tell you something? Do you know what it's like to have your first bully come from home?
Mm,
Do you know what it's like to have the adult in your life kick the crap out of you? Do you know
mhm,
what it's like to be so scared and afraid at home?
mhm.
You know? And we talk so much about the queer community uplifting each other and, you know, da 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 da. Honestly, a lot of the times I find it's a load of crap. I find it's a load of bull. I don't think a lot of the white queer community want to hear, want to listen, want to see, or want to uplift in any way.
Well, they don't
Unless
want to be.
unless some of them want to be a white savior
Mhm.
of some regards. But when you push yourself up and you pull yourself up, it's like we don't want to hear it. We
Well,
don't want to hear it.
well, they don't want to be burdened with it.
Yeah.
And this is so. Then you want to talk about white privilege, right? White privilege is white privilege, but what are you as a person of color doing to enable it? And I will. And
Mm,
what I mean to say is, if you are just an example, you know, I love having a holistic approach to things,
hmm.
because I often think that when you are dealing with just the symptoms, then it's kind of too late.
T.
Deal with them, but like, in order to make sure things don't get exacerbated. But ultimately it's kind of, you want to get to a place where you're taking preventative measures and it never gets to that point, right? So if you're physically abusing a child and they have learning difficulties as a result, they have body image issues, they have sexual identity issues as a result, they are debilitating conditions which ultimately, and you know, data will back me up on this, I'm sure of it, data will back me up of this, is it will cause problems in their longer term development and career progression in life, right?
Absolutely.
And I know that for a fact because I learned that about eczema. If you have eczema, unfortunately, due to days missed, due to negative self-perception and so on and so forth, the likelihood of you thriving at the same level of your peers is less. So then imagine being beaten the crap out of and being hated as a child for being gay or for being whatever. Imagine what that does to somebody in the longer term. So then when you are in a, and the likelihood of you being abused as a child, again, you know, I'm not bringing out receipts, but from what I've read, the instance of that happening is higher in POC families
Mm,
rather than white families. So then you have white kids growing up in a household where the likelihood of them being physically abused by the person who is supposed to love them is significantly less,
hmm.
against somebody who comes from a South Asian background who is more than likely to be physically abused by their child, leading to
By the
by
parent.
their parent, sorry, leading to developmental issues. So then you're already behind on the race.
You are so
So
behind.
when it comes to a place like Drag Race, you look at the South Asian queens, they are working without even realizing it. They are working
So
10
much.
times harder in order to get to the same place because they are working against the crap that goes on in their head and their minds, and therapy is expensive. That's exactly what happens. And then ultimately what you end up doing is you start becoming cynical of yourself, and when you have somebody trying to move further forward, they will try and tear that person down because that person cannot exist, because them thriving as a person of color invalidates their own
And it's
existence.
absolutely disgusting. The amount of tearing down I have seen.
But
No,
I'm trying to.
the amount of tearing down I've seen white queer people, and I can only speak for our community, to people of color that are moving forward, that are progressing, is diabolical. It's disgusting, and it's the same kind of people that want to talk community.
Well, that I mean, that jealousy and that I mean, that's
Go,
entertainers at large. That's artists
go.
at large. Many artists, unfortunately, are
And we are
insecure,
talking about artists,
and many artists are insecure. And when you have finite
of
opportunities,
course.
people do become insecure, and it's just easier to take a person of
Always.
color down because they're already so far behind anyway. That's a separate thing. I'm talking about South Asians tearing fellow South Asians down,
Mm.
because if one of them tries to move forward and works on their trauma, then that forces you to do the same thing, and that's uncomfortable. So you'd rather tear the person
Well,
moving further ahead down.
we've experienced that. I will never forget the time when
And
someone
I,
said to me, stop progressing forward. We've got to move forward at the same time. I went, my rate, I've got to live.
yeah,
I'm a mama. I paid for my therapy.
yeah, yeah,
I've
yeah.
stacked up all that
We're
money,
fortunate enough to do that. Yeah.
for a reason, for a
Mm,
purpose, and I
mm,
need to use that.
mm.
But please see me moving forward as inspiration. Please see me moving forward as moving that needle forward a little bit.
Yeah.
Please see me moving forward as you can do it. You can do
Yeah.
it too, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, start. Are we done? By the way, I can't even tell.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I feel like we're going over.
That's fine.
Start. Stop blaming each other. Take
Mm,
accountability for yourself,
yes.
and remember, charity begins at home.
Mm,
If you see it, report it, stamp it out.
yes.
It's as simple as that.
Like,
Don't
please do
stop
report it.
accepting it.
Report, and I'm going to say this, and then it's time to wrap up. Anyone listening to this right now, if you have someone on your mind that you know is abusing a child, report it right now.
Yeah. And
Please don't
also,
wait. Please do the right thing. Do it as an adult. And another thing, if you've been a victim of child abuse, first of all, I'm so sorry.
mhm.
I know what that feels like, but you can overcome everything. You can get the tools to overcome it. It's not over, and it's not the end.
No, it's not over. It's not the end. And it's all of our
It
stories.
is.
It
Oh,
might sound like as if you are the only one, but it is all of
you know.
our stories, and it's important to talk about it. However, I will challenge you to say that it's important to do something about it, even once it's over and you're an adult, because God love you guys, but leaving a long story, a long paragraph in the comment section of this video is not healing. You're just opening a can of worms and then moving on to the next day. It might feel good in the moment to talk about it, but ultimately you got to deal with it.
Yeah.
There's no point sliding into our DMs telling the long story that you've
Of what
been
happened to
through
you.
of what happened to you without it reaching some sort of conclusion. We're not going to be able to save you. We can't do much beyond talk about it in the format that we've talked about it, frankly. We have given you some sort of tools in terms of the benefits of dealing with it. It's up to you to go and do something about it. You cannot just talk about it and leave it at that.
Period.
Period.
Period. Whoo! I don't
Period.
even know what this episode was about,
I don't
honey.
know.
But everything happened.
We're like proper aunties
I'm
now,
into
aren't
this
we?
vibe. Yeah, why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank you
everybody,
for
for your
listening.
love, support, subscriptions, and yeah, let's make the next one's uplifting.
Yeah, February will be more uplifting. Also, happy 10 years to us
Oh
being
yeah.
together. Yes. Okay.
Love you
Yeah.
guys, but you
You
don't
don't love
love me.
me.
Goodbye.
Bye. Period.